So April, you just asked a beautiful question, which let me teach you. We just traveled up to rapport, following your natural curiosity based on what someone's wearing, carrying, sharing, or presenting. Third level, and this is probably audible 20 times speed actually of the book. Openness. 2 points with the idea of openness. One is when you ask a question, you actually have to be open to whatever the response is. I would argue that the question asker, it's your responsibility to then really hold and deal with whatever comes back at you. Whatever comes back at you. And some crazy stuff will come back at you if you start asking. The second meaning of openness is actually asking open-ended questions. So you all are familiar, if you ask a closed question, what kind of answers do you get? One-word answers, yes, no, right? A place, a location. Where are you from? Boston. Boop, right? What words do open-ended questions tend to begin with? Why? How? So that. No. Why? How? What? So here, it's all good. I have a mic stand behind me. I could probably just use this. Why, how, or what? So April, can I use your beautiful question that I have a story about to create a teachable moment? Please do, was her response. So why, how, or what? I'm going to do something that might make some of you angry, all right? 3 questions. This question. If you want to build relationships of trust quickly with people, which makes whatever job you have a whole lot easier and smoother. If you want to build relationships of trust with people, take this question. Anybody want to know why? Oh, thank you for asking. Say it again. They perceive it as being judgmental. And so if somebody walked in that door right now and I looked at them and said, hey you, why are you late? What do they have to do? Justify, defend, rationalize. And so if your goal is to build a relationship of trust with another human being, do you want them defensive and justifying and rationalizing? I don't, right? So that's the first reason, is just by reframing any why question or asking questions that only begin with how or what, you actually increase the quality of your questions. The second reason, which is actually my favorite, is how many of you have kids who are asking 300 to 400 questions a day? How many of you once were a kid? Yes, that's everybody. That's the paying attention test. When you were this big and you're walking through the world, what question were you asking? Why? 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 Guess what? Your brain got really good at asking that question. And so it's really easy to ask why questions. And for me, it's especially easy when somebody does something stupid. The first question that comes out is, why did you say that? Why did you do that? Right? And so if you catch that why question, reel it in, and reframe it as a how or a what, it is phenomenal how much that reframes the question. It's not a cure-all, but it's awfully interesting. The other reason, though, is that simply by asking questions that only begin with how or what, if your goal is to build a relationship of trust, you actually trick your brain into asking more deliberate questions. Because if you just say, like, the only questions that come out of my mouth when I'm meeting people start with how or what. As soon as you go to ask something and it doesn't begin with how or what, you're like, And so you actually make your questions more thoughtful and intentional just by committing to that practice. All right? So here's how I failed. I was teaching a facilitation training for that group, World in Conversation. I taught people these tools. Be clear about your intent and share it with the other person. I taught them to pay attention to what they're naturally curious about and to follow their natural curiosity based on what someone was wearing, carrying, or sharing. And 3, I taught them to ask questions that begin with how or what. And then I said, okay, you got these 3 base tools, leave. Leave this classroom and go build a relationship of trust with 3 strangers. That's your assignment. You have 30 minutes. So you have 30 minutes leave, go build a relationship of trust with 3 strangers. These were a group of 20, 30 college students. How excited do you think they were about that? Yeah, not super interested. Lots of snickering. I don't believe in preaching something that I'm not practicing though, and so this particular time was the 8th semester in a row that I had taught this course. I was like, I don't want to go build a relationship of trust with 3 strangers. But I figured if I really had to, I might as well get something done while I'm at it. And so I walked downtown to this convenience store, and I picked out a couple things that I needed. And as I got up to the cash register, there was this cashier, bright colored tattoos all over her neck. And I was like, oh, I teach this stuff for a living. I got this. I got to the front. I was like, I just have to ask, like, love the tattoos. What's the story behind your tattoos? She goes, I like the colors. I did not build a relationship of trust with her in that moment. So 30 minutes goes by. We all come back to the classroom. And the energy's electric, because even though they were angry, they've all just had 3 experiences with real people. And we get back to the classroom, and this one quiet student, quiet up to that point, actually quieted everybody else down. So, shh. I gotta tell you this. When you rolled out this exercise, I was ticked. I did not sign up for this class to leave and go build a relationship of trust with 3 strangers, but I figured if I had to do it, I might as well get something done while I'm at it. And so I walked downtown to this convenience store, and I picked out a couple things that I needed. And as I got to the cash register, there was this cashier with bright colored tattoos all over her neck. And I got to the front, and I looked at her, and I said, I just have to ask, how annoying does it get when people ask you about your tattoos? You have no idea. And sometimes in the middle of August, I feel like wearing a turtleneck. In fact, there's days that I wish I didn't even get these tattoos. Actually, there was just this guy in here, came up, picked out a couple things, and asked me, what's the story behind your tattoos? So your question, April, why do people get so annoyed when we ask questions rooted in people's curiosity? I'd say the missing ingredient between my failure in that moment and that student's success is he saw the world from her perspective. I was trying to accomplish a task. I was trying to build a relationship of trust and check my box. He said, what must it be like to be you? And asked a question from that standpoint. And so if you were facilitating this program instead of me, and you walked in the door in that moment, I could ask you like my favorite question that I love to try to build a relationship of trust with you. Or I could say, it's really hot outside. It's early, I wonder if they had coffee. What must it be like to be you? And ask a question rooted in my natural curiosity, but from their worlds rather than my own, right? I realize I'm getting a little bit heady. We're like standing, there's all this like fun ropes course stuff. We've been sitting for a while, been talking. And so I want to, Jennifer's like, oh no, give it to me though, lay it on, lay it on. So what I'd love to do is, the brain, especially in a program like this, the brain does really crazy things when we take a full minute of just absolute silence. So this is like the opposite of a high energy thing, but the brain does really amazing things with just 60 seconds of total silence. And so if you're comfortable, you can close your eyes. If you're not comfortable, you can keep your eyes open. And what I want you to do is simply sit for 60 seconds and just let all of this land where it lands. And then we're going to shift gears. 60 seconds, total silence. If you need to do something, you can count the number of sounds you hear in this room. Number of distinct different sounds you hear in this room. 60 seconds.